Thank you for joining us in this week's episode of Chat with Kimola. Today, I bring you a guest all the way from Ghana in West Africa because these chats have a regional reach as well. So in this episode, we're going to be delving into the Chevening Scholarship, and we have our guest, Mina Okuru, a Ghanaian and a 2017-2018 Chevening alumnus who studied at the University of Cardiff and graduated with a master's in International Public Relations and Global Communications Management. Mina is a communications specialist and she currently works as the communications manager for the Ghanaian-German Centre for Jobs, where she leads the implementation of the center's communications and engagement strategy to ensure overall visibility of the center and its programs and activities in Ghana. Welcome to Chat with Kimola, Mina.
It's a pleasure to be on.
Karibu sana. That's what we say in Kenya. Welcome, Karibu. So before we start, I just want to hear from you. When you were applying for the Chevening Scholarship in 2017-2018, how did you know about the scholarship and how was your experience?
Interesting. So I remember one morning when I was going to work. My usual practice is to go and tell my mom that I'm going to work and I'll see her in the evening and all that. So on that day, when I told her I was going to work, she told me, Kwansma, and Kwansma is my local name. She was like,
Okay.
Kwansma, when are you going to have your master's degree? And I was like, oh, I haven't thought about this in a while, but I was a bit running late for work. So I told her we'll continue with the discussion when I came back that evening. So actually on my way to work, I kept thinking, why is my mom bringing up master's education at this time when we had prior discussion as to where I wanted to get to in terms of my career before going in for a second degree. But that evening when I came back, unfortunately, she had gone to bed and I didn't want to bother her. So I used the rest of the time to just search. So I went up to Google and then I just said, I remember the sentence so clearly. I typed in comprehensive scholarship opportunities for Ghanaians abroad.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first name that came up was Chevening. And really, that was the first time I had ever heard of any scholarship called Chevening. I had heard of other scholarship like the Fulbright, there's another one, Commonwealth, and all that. But for Chevening in particular, that was the first time. And really, I got it through Google. So I got to hear about it through Google. So when I clicked on it, I started reading about it. And really, I don't know, my interest kept going up for that because it sort of began taking all the things I would need in a scholarship.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned, I typed out comprehensive. So I was looking for a scholarship that was full, like that would give me from leaving Ghana to whichever country. Even at that time, I wasn't thinking too much of what country I was thinking. In my mind, I just thought, having my scholarship abroad. But with regard to the specific country, I really hadn't decided on that yet. So as I mentioned, I was looking for a comprehensive scholarship. In terms of finances, I wanted a certain scholarship that would pay for everything for me. I was also looking for a scholarship that could give me a blend because I'm an introvert, but I change when I have to. So I didn't want a scholarship that's all academic.
Yeah.
So I wanted a fine blend of networking. A scholarship that could give you networking opportunities and all that. And I think from what my research on Chevening, it's also sort of ticked that. And I also looking for a scholarship that will bring me in the thick of affairs to understand diversity and people coming to the same place with different cultures, different perspectives, different experiences, and also the testimonies I'd read of people who had the scholarship who had had Chevening Scholarship on the internet and everything, made me think, no, this is what I'm looking for. And
Great.
so then I I now further on went to, find out when it will open. I
Mhm.
remember clearly it was in June when I started doing that research.
Yeah.
So when I checked on the dates the application was going to start, thankfully for me, it was in August. So I quickly went to my Google Calendar and
Yeah.
then put the date in as a
Noted
reminder.
it down.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but sometimes I get so busy with work, or at the time I guess I got so busy with work, it was easy for me to forget. So
Yeah.
when I realized it was going to open in the first week of August, I
Mhm.
quickly went into my Google Calendar
Yeah.
and then put in the date that it was going to start, so that at least it will remind me
Mhm.
to start the process. So that
Okay.
was how I got to know about Chevening,
So we should
and
thank
that
your mother for prompting
I'm
you to
telling you,
start.
I owe everything. I owe everything to her. God bless her soul. At the time, unfortunately, at the time I got the email that had been selected for the Chevening. Actually, I got the first email. As you know the process, the first email would let you know whether you progress to the next stage. Then you book
Yeah.
your interview and everything.
Mhm.
At the time that email came in, I think it was in February.
Mhm.
Yeah, 14 February. I remember clearly. I had lost my mom then, so I
Oh.
mean, the first person, I was really hoping she'd be the first person I shared the news with, but at the
Yeah.
time I'd lost her. But it also sort of encouraged me in terms of my interview preparation, that I really wanted to get this, and as a way of thanking her for drawing my attention at the time to get a master's scholarship, and then get a master's degree, and then proceed with my education. So the experience we can
Yeah,
never.
because you were in Wales,
But
Cardiff
I
University in
was
Wales. Yeah.
I was and before I actually went to the UK, I only knew of Scotland,
Mhm.
Northern Ireland, and then Britain. I
Mhm.
wasn't really much interested in Wales, if I could put it that way, because from what I knew from family and friends who were living in the UK, their English was not the regular English we're used to and all that. But in my research, part of the Chevening Scholars, you need to research for the schools that you
Yeah.
want to attend. I was looking for, because of my background, I was looking for a school that was number one in communications,
Mhm.
a school that had I mentioned about diversity, a
Yeah.
school that had a lot of people coming from different parts of the world to study. And in
Mhm.
my research, Cardiff University came top. Actually, I mean, not to brag, it's the number one.
It
It's the
is.
number one institution in UK when it comes to journalism, media, and all. So Cardiff came number one, and then I realized that actually Cardiff is in Wales. So
Yeah.
eventually, I'm going to be in Wales. So that's how come I got to know about Wales and started reading about. I'm a bit curious
Yeah.
about culture, cultural communication. So I started reading about Wales, what it has to offer, and really, before I left, I had already fallen in love with the school and the country, if I can say that.
And you've
My
actually raised a good point before I let you continue, because most of the questions people ask, like, how do I start with the schools, looking for the schools I want to go to? So you've mentioned research. You also mentioned you were looking for something which was culturally diverse. So if that's something someone wants to be top of their list, that's how they can be able to choose the type of schools they want to go and study. So now you were telling us about now you are there. How was that experience?
Cardiff is great. I mean, right from the very first day I got to Heathrow, and I needed to join a bus to now go to Wales. The Right from Heathrow, I mean, even right from before I even board the plane, the experience was great. But on getting to Cardiff, I realized, Ghanaians are, we are actually, praised for our hospitality. I felt at home, because
Yeah.
anyone I asked for either direction or assistance, they will virtually stop everything they were doing, actually listen to what I was going to say, and then eventually they helped me find my way around. Um, Cardiff University it's actually at the heart of the city center. I know there's a lot of different routes. You can be, going through this way thinking it will take you here, but you get there in where you're looking for it. So, but the people are really helpful.
Yeah.
I tried using the map to find my way out, but I realized that you just have to ask. If you've lost your way, or you just had to ask. And my perception about their English being funny or whatever was actually proven wrong, because a lot of people were really speaking really, really good English, extremely good English. I was surprised, but the
Yeah.
people were really helpful. They could point you when you get here, ask for this. Like, I don't know, people just came to my aid at every point in time that I needed. I just had to ask.
That's great. That's totally great. It's just the accents, and people shouldn't be afraid. That's the whole point of
Right.
going to study abroad. You get to experience something new, and your perceptions are changed. Because you back home in Ghana, you're like, that English I can't understand, but when you get there, you're like, it's actually manageable.
Yeah, it's good. It is,
All
and
right. Uh-huh.
thankfully for me, my course were about 70 in all in the class,
Mm-hmm.
but we were very diverse. People from Ghana, Kenya, Saint Lucia, China, Russia, US, and everybody, even people from the UK as well. Everybody brought a certain different perspective to the same issues we're discussing. And that really sort of opened up my understanding a bit and my insights, that you can be exposed in a certain way, but everybody has a different view or a different perspective to the same issue. You just had to be a very open minded person, and then also so keen, because everybody comes to the table with different experiences, and those experiences could be personal, it could be observatory experiences, it could be experiences that somebody has told them about. But your job is to just be open minded, listen to the other side. As I used to say, listen to the other side. For every issue, there's always another side to it. You just have to be listen. And the students in our class really brought that to bear. I really enjoyed my class. I really, really enjoyed it.
All
And
right.
then
That's wonderful.
back to where I was living,
Mm-hmm.
there was also different people from different cultures. So actually, I remember one of the things we used to do was we dedicated Thursday evenings to what we call culture nights.
Nice.
So, oh yeah, we will contribute. We'll contribute a few pounds.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go and buy ingredients. One of us will cook their local dish back
Mm-hmm.
home. They'll
Yeah.
cook their local dish. We'll get a few drinks. We go to the cinema. There was a room where you could go and watch. We had to
Yeah.
book it in advance. We
Yeah.
go to that room. Before we start watching the movie, the person who cooked that night will
Yeah.
tell us the history behind the food, stories around the food, why it was a staple meal for that country. So
Yeah.
it gives us a lot of cultural insights
Mm.
to other cultures. And it was one of the things I personally looked forward to on Thursday nights.
Thursdays.
Because on Friday, lots of people didn't have early morning lectures. And
Yeah.
so we could stay throughout the night and
Mm.
still go to bed late, not worrying that you have an early morning lecture to go to. And that was really exciting for me. I still remember some of the lessons I picked from there,
Of
and it
course.
stayed
They say one of the best memories are usually around food. So at least you'll always have that in your mind.
there.
Wow, it seems like you had a very well-rounded experience. And also now the purpose of Chat with Kibola is also to help other young people who also would like to experience the same thing through winning the scholarship, and for us the Chevening Scholarship. So maybe we can get into it just to share some of the tips For example, the application phase for 2020 is coming up, and it's starting on the 3rd of September to the 3rd of November. And it's shorter this time because of the pandemic. But since now we're getting into August, they have like a month to start preparing. How do you think a young person who's interested in this scholarship can position themselves in the best way during this, just preparation phase before they start applying for the scholarship?
Well, first of all, ask or advise everyone to research about the scholarship. Read about what the scholarship will require of you, and then do that. That's the basic thing. So if, for example, in your reading about Chevening, you realize that one of the things they will need from you eventually is the IELTS test. Read about the IELTS test, what it entails, what is required of you, and then start preparing for that. If one of the things they will need you is to research about the schools you like to go to in the UK, do your research on this. So basic thing, research, read. Also make sure that the things they will require. So for example, you should have done at least 2 years of work post first degree. Make sure you have that. So what I'll say is that just make sure that in the scheme of things about the basic requirements that Chevening requires,
Yeah.
you have to make sure you've ticked all the boxes. And that takes time. So I'll also advise that you start early.
Yeah.
Because these things takes time, you have to start early. You start early, you research. And then the other thing is also that, especially with the essays bit, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the essays is what will actually get you into the next stage. So if your essays are not good enough or it's not well written, then you're actually, excusing yourself
Yeah.
even before the main competition begins. And so I
Qualifying.
advise
Yeah.
that your writing has to be on point. When I say your writing has to be on point, Africans, I mean, for me, initially, when I started, yeah, we are writing a lot. We write a lot of things. So if you know that, for example, you can write something in 20 words, you don't have to write it in 100 words. Don't be so verbose about what you're writing. And plan your essays as well. You know that, for example, part of the statement will be a personal statement. And for people who don't know, there are word limits to some of the essays. So if you're writing too much, it's not good. You need to keep your essays within the word limit. But most importantly, you should plan those essays. If someone reads it, what are the key messages I want the person to take out from this essay? You should get your grammar on point. I know that for some of the African countries, especially Ghana, we have the tendency to be mixing American English spelling with the British English spelling. For goodness sake, this is a British scholarship. So the minimum thing you can do is to write the correct words in that language. So
True.
probably you are used to spelling certain words, and the confusion is that for some of the words, the spelling in American is different from, or slightly different from the
Yeah.
spelling yeah. So you are applying for a UK scholarship. So
Mm.
make sure that the basic words are in the language of that country. So you
Yeah.
don't have to be mixing American spelling. If you're writing maybe favor, for example, you
Mm.
have to write it in the UK spelling. You can't
Yeah.
be mixing American and English spelling. And also, one of the things I realized was that you have to write as if you were speaking.
Yeah.
Imagine, because at the end of the day, there's going to be a panel that is going to have a look at all the applications that have come through.
Yeah.
And to be frank, you will not be there in person to explain anything
Yeah.
or clarify anything. And so personally, I usually advise people that you write as if you were there in front of them, speaking your heart out.
Yeah.
So that means that you don't have to write, just go straight to the point.
Mm-hmm.
Be very, let your essays be short, straight to the point. By the end of the day, make sure the key messages that you want the person to have with him or her after reading that essay, whether it's 300 word or 500 word or 800 word, the key things are stated there and it's straight to the point. So basically, these are the things that read wide, research, make sure you are ticking all the basic requirements that Chevening needs of you. Make sure your essays are on point. Don't be so verbose, writing too many unnecessary things. Whilst you're writing, imagine in your mind that you were actually sitting in front of a panel trying to make your case as to why you should be given this scholarship. So once you have that mindset and it is guiding your writing, a lot of the unnecessary things would go out. And then the final thing is, I would also ask or encourage that you have another person or a second eye look at your essays
Very important.
before you eventually press the submit button. But the thing is, if you start applying early, then you'll be able to track or correct all your mistakes, cross-check, recheck, and then having a second or third eye look at your essays for you before. And then also ask for frank or constructive feedback from the person that is reading your essays. Don't take anything personal. If, for example, you send your essays to somebody and the person gets back to you and tell you, people give feedback in different forms. Some people, they are very straightforward. Others are very diplomatic because they don't want to hurt your feelings or whatever. But I'll suggest that for whatever feedback anybody gives you after having a look at your essays, just take it in good faith and work on it. Because one, it's their time they are spending to have a look for you. And so for whatever feedback they give to you, take it in good faith and then work on it.
Because and then there are some things that can slip your mind, even when you're writing. So there's redundancy, you're saying something over and over again, or you're just going around and around a point. So the other eye, it doesn't even have to be a Chevening alumni. It can be your mentor, a friend, your family, someone you trust. Just to be like, does this make sense? Does it portray me in good light? Right?
Yeah, good question. Good question. For me, I remember because I started early, I initially wrote all the essays without thinking about the word limit. So I was just writing. I just wrote. And then I think after writing the next question I asked myself, okay, how can I compress or reduce or summarize this thing into how the words I had written? So for example, if the first essay was about 3,000 words, as a first step, how can I reduce everything, make sure all the messages I want taken out are still there, but how can I reduce it to 1,500 words? When I got to 1,500 words, how can I reduce it to 700 words? How can I reduce? So once you start early, then you have a bit of time. I realize people don't start early. And so I don't know whether the reason they don't, I really don't know the reason they don't start early. Whether they probably think that, okay, these are just little essays I'm supposed to write and that's it. What we forget is that you're in Ghana, you're in Kenya, you are in Liberia, South Africa, Nigeria, but you are competing with other people in different countries. And that's one of the beautiful things I like about Chevening, that you are in Ghana, you're applying, but the person in Kosovo or any other, Albania, Tunisia, wherever else, they are filling or competing with you on the same set of questions. And it actually boosts your confidence that, you know, you can compete with anybody in anywhere. You can compete with anybody. And even your own country, you're not the only one applying. I remember when we were doing a send-off event, one of the speakers who came to our event told us that in Ghana, during the 2017 cohort, I think about a little over 1,200 or something, a little over 1,000 people had applied, and it was cut down to 60 and further cut down. So out of the over 1,000 people who applied, the people who got shortlisted to go to the next stage, which is the interview, was 60 people. Out of the 60, they had to take 20. So you are have the mindset that you're competing with another person right where you are in your own country, but also competing with other
Global.
people in other countries. And
Yeah.
so you have to put your best foot forward.
Very.
Nail it. I'll say take it as a World Cup. You know how countries get excited
Yeah.
when their
Yeah.
teams, qualify for to participate in World Cups. Take it as a World Cup, put in your best, and then have a different person look at it for you. Work on the feedback. We are all not perfect. You may think you have the perfect essay, but a different eye will point out certain things that you hadn't even thought of to include. And then if you're lucky enough and the person knows you well, knows your strengths, knows your weaknesses, the
Yeah.
person can say that, okay, for this paragraph, you can rephrase it this way, put it this way, add this, take out that. So
Yeah.
feedback is really great. But the lesson is that you have to start early.
Yeah.
It also gives the people who are having a look at your CV ample time
Mhm.
to look at it and give you good feedback, and then you work on it. If you start
Yeah.
late, it's not advisable to start late.
Yeah, and it actually depends. You see, many people come to know about the scholarship at different points of the application phase. So there are those who already know it's starting on the 3rd of September 2020. There are those who will realize, oh my God, it's ending on the 3rd of November, and they are just realizing maybe on the 29th of August. So,
But that's the point I
mhm,
made about asking questions.
yes.
If you know, so for example, I knew that, of course, thanks to my mom, she drew my attention to it.
Mhm,
But prior to that day, that morning when she asked, we were always having conversations that, okay, I want to do my master's, but I don't want to fund it. So that was the premise. I want to do my master's, but I don't want to personally fund it. So if you can't personally fund it, scholarship is the next thing. So then you start searching. It can be scholarships in certain universities. Some people already they have certain schools that they want to attend. So if let's say you have certain schools in mind, try go to their website. If you know someone who knows someone who has been there before, ask questions. This school, this department that I want to go and have my program in, do they give scholarship? If they do, is it a full package? Is it a 50% scholarship? Do they just only take care of tuition and then you have to take care of the rest? So it's starting early and then asking questions, asking the right questions. And I'll say that no question, especially for education, no question is silly. Even not just not in it, everywhere, no question is silly, because the question you think is silly will be probably the question that will unlock a lot of the answers that you need for. So
yeah.
if initially in your mind you have certain schools already that you want to attend, just make it takes time and effort and discipline,
Mhm.
because as I was mentioning, if you're working, you virtually have the whole day working. You work from morning till evening, but when you come home, and that's what I used to do, when I close from work and I come home, especially when the applications opened, when I close from work and I come home, I take a rest about 40-45 minutes, go take my bath, because usually after bathing I have fresh
Yeah.
ideas coming. So after taking my bath, I go onto my laptop, then I start searching. So every time from August 2017, when I started the application, or when the applications opened, every time I closed from work and I went home, I spent at least 2 hours reading about the scholarship, about what it required of me. Sometimes when I did all that and I got all the information, once I started applying, every time I got to the house after work, I'll spend 2 hours working on my essays. Even if it was just one paragraph that I
Yeah.
wrote for that 2 hours, I felt it was like an incremental what's the word? You're making progress.
Progress. Yeah.
Yeah,
Incremental
so
progress.
rather than waiting till it's just about 1 month or 3 weeks to the deadline where you'll be putting unnecessary pressure on yourself, you
Yeah.
start early. You can write one paragraph a day, or let's say you can give yourself certain little tasks. Okay, today I want to make sure I write 200 words a day. It
Mm.
is better than waiting till last
That
few
last
weeks when the
minute. Yeah.
application is, yeah. And when I say hard, put in a lot of effort and time, it is. because sometimes you get to the house and you're very tired. Sitting in traffic alone is tiresome.
Yeah.
So you have to put in the hard work. You have to put in the hard work. If you know that during the week you're so busy you can't do anything, at least when it's weekend, make sure you're putting in the effort on the days that you're not going to work. And
Yeah.
then, yeah.
That's very true. And especially the researching bit that you've talked about, going to the website, just going again to the website, because it kind of helps you to note the type of person that they're looking for. Although Chevening does not have like a typical scholar, but you just are able to speak the language they're speaking, know what type of person they're trying to attract to this scholarship. So I know there are many people who had applied for the previous year, but they were not selected this year. And because of how attractive the scholarship is, they want to try again this following year. So how maybe could you encourage them so that they don't actually feel like they're lost, feeling that they're just trying again for no sake? How can they repackage themselves to just maybe the little things they can do here and there so that they can actually stand out in this new round that is opening up?
Well, good question. I remember in one of the conversations I had with my mom, she was like, I know you. I know that if someone says no to you when you think you really deserve it, it's going to hit you. So if you're applying for a scholarship, know that the outcome will be three. Either congratulations, you've gotten it, then you're all excited. We are sorry to let you know that you didn't progress. So that's also another answer you can get. Or you can be in between. Okay, we were quite impressed with your submission or application, but probably we don't have enough funds, so we're putting you on waiting list.
Yeah.
And really, these are the three responses you're likely to get if you apply for a Chevening scholarship. At least from my experience, you either get it, you're either put on the waiting list because there's no funds,
Yeah.
or you don't make it at all to the next stage. And so for people who make it to the middle ground, being on the waiting list, it's a bit, I don't know, I'm just using the word frustration for want of a better word. Because one, if you're on waiting list, you don't know whether you are number one on the waiting list, number two on the waiting list. You just don't know.
Yeah.
And they'll just tell you that once extra funding become available, you might be considered. But because you don't even know what number you are on the waiting list, you can't really be sure about it. So you just have to probably hope or pray that you will be part of the people who will be asked to join, or who will be asked, once extra funding a bit. But for those who are told no right from the beginning, this is what I'll say, that look, you don't give up. You have to, should I say, put in the application again. But before you put in the application again, sometimes you really have to ask yourself questions. Okay, so you do an assessment of so there are really difficult questions that you have to ask. Okay, so, and because they don't actually tell you what you did wrong in the essays, you don't know which area you have to improve on.
Yeah.
But usually I think that from the time you apply till the time you get feedback, definitely there may have been some changes, positive, in terms of what you can include in the next application. So so what our advice is, first, don't give up. You still have to push or try again. That's one. And then before you try again, or get ready or prepare yourself to put in the next application when it next opens, do an assessment of yourself. And you really have to ask yourself tough questions.
Yeah.
And you have to be truthful to yourself. Be truthful to yourself. Also ask for, that's why I say that for me, feedback really, really works.
Yeah.
You can, that's why if you do your research, you will probably know. I talk to people who have, for example, had the scholarship and ask them, okay, so what do you think made your essay stand out? Talk to people. There was this person I not mentored, but I assisted or guided. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
word. Guided in applying for this year. It's unfortunate COVID has happened, but he's gotten the scholarship. One of the things we did was, because of the work I do, I'm quite a busy person, but I try to get him to speak to other people who have been on the Chevening Scholarship
Yeah.
on different courses.
Yeah.
So his field is journalism, my field is communications, but I made him talk to people who had gone to do engineering,
Mm-hmm.
because really, even when you move to the next stage of going to the interview, you really don't know where the questions are coming from.
Yeah.
Of course, we know that most of it or some of it will come from the application that you put in, but you really don't know which member of the panel is going to ask you a question on sustainability or climate change or whatever. So talk to people who have been there, and it might even surprise you to know it could be that for some people it was a third or fourth attempt
Yes.
that actually made them get the scholarship. For some people, it's their first attempt, good for
Yeah.
them. But for others, most of the time, it's their second or third attempt that gets them, the scholarship. And it's because of the questions they ask, the sort of improvement, little improvements they make between the time they are applying and the time
Yeah.
they actually get to put in the application that sometimes make the trick. So I encourage, don't give up, keep
Yeah.
trying, talk to people who have had the experience, and just ask them the hard questions.
True.
Ask them, and don't think that any question is stupid. You might never know. One simple question you ask is the one that will unlock a lot of the questions or opportunities you're looking for. So
That's
just
true.
don't give up.
And also Chevening, this year they released it's on their website. So I'll also put a link in the description box. But it's kind of like a guide of what that independent committee actually looks at when you're writing the various essays in leadership. So it shows like maybe if you got these points because you didn't clearly define or give examples of how you have been involved in leadership. So using that document that they have provided and then going hand in hand with your essay and see, did I really actually capture what they were looking for or not? So a point or something that we need to remember is even if you're reapplying, try and rewrite your essay. As Mina has said, try and talk to people, get someone to look at your essay and just critique and tell you what you can change or what you can also add. And everything will be okay. It's always try and try and try again. Don't
Is
give
it?
up because it's possible.
Exactly. I remember one of the things I did with my essays was one evening when I came back from work, I think I called my brother
Mm,
and I told him, "Oh, I want to read out a certain essay for you. Just let me know whether it makes sense in your ears,
yeah.
and where I have to pause." Because I made mention earlier that you have to write as if you were speaking to a certain panel that's
Yes.
you have to convince. And so I think one the essay on isn't that working, I remember correctly,
Mm,
my brother was like, this one doesn't sound well, I don't get what you're saying.
yeah.
So then I had to go back, rewrite it. I think 2 or 3 days later, I called him back and I was like, this is an improvement, or it's supposed to be an improvement on
Mm,
the previous essay I read to you. So
mhm.
give me your feedback again. And then after that, I said that, oh, okay, this one makes sense. It's better than what you wrote the other. So as I mentioned, your essay is sort of your passport to getting the first stage cleared. And
Yeah.
so you have to make sure that you are putting in your best for that, because one, as I mentioned, you're not there physically to clarify or explain anything. It is the essays that will speak for you, if I can put it that way. It is your essay that's going to make a case for you
Mm,
as to why they should give you an opportunity. And so you shouldn't take that part of the application, you shouldn't take it lightly. You should
yes.
take it all the seriousness it deserves, and ask all the questions. Ask for help if you have to, and I'm sure
Yeah,
everything will work out. Yeah.
it will. So, Mina, now it's now 2 years since you came back from the UK. How has the experience been now coming back? We are what? We are scholars for a year and Shivnans for life. That's the
I
tagline.
love that tag. I tell you,
So how
I
was it
love
for
that tag.
you? Yeah, coming
Back
back,
home.
work.
Okay, so when I was there, I actually made a decision that when I returned home, I was going to rest for 6 straight months without, going to look for a job. But I just wanted to rest because I got married 2 days. I had to leave for the UK. So when I came back, I was like, let me just stay home,
Mm,
just relax. Because prior to my leaving, it was back to back. It was work, 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 work. So
yeah.
when I came back, I just decided that, okay, I'm going to rest for 6 months. And then after 6 months, I'm now going to, you know, move on to the next stage of my career plan.
Mm,
And really, it really worked out well. Within
yeah.
6 months, I'd gotten the current role that I'm doing. But within that 6 months period when I was at home, it was some, I would say, like mixed feelings. I came back.
Mm,
Sometimes I was frustrated. You get to the road, people are not driving right. They're not observing the traffic
mm,
regulations. I used to get frustrated at that.
mm,
And one of the things that also frustrated me was the speed of the internet. And
yeah.
on campus, the internet was free and everything. I wasn't going to expect that my internet will be free, but at least I was
Mm,
expecting that it will be very fast
yeah.
and all that. So the internet that was a bit slow was also another bit of
Mm-hmm.
frustration for me. But apart from that, we also had a lot of support from the Chevening Alumni Association in Ghana. So I
Mm,
remember when we came, I think 1 month after all of us had returned,
yeah.
they organized the British Council, no, the British High Commission in Ghana and the
Alumni.
Alumni Association. Yeah, they organized, if I remember correctly, two different events that they sort of trying to get us to acclimatize to the
Yeah.
system, gave us pieces of advice on what we can do and all that. And also mostly reminded us of, I remember the Chevening, the Alumni Association president, she
Yeah.
in particular reminded us of the things we said we'll do when we came back.
Yeah.
It said, and told us that that should be a fuel. So our frustrations or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
it's understood, but that should be a fuel,
Yeah.
to get things done and to make your impact or contribution to the area that you said you were going to
Yeah.
make in your application. They
And
were quite helpful.
it was, yeah, that's nice. Yeah, we also had the same here as well. Just, offering advice, like, listen, it's going to work out, it's going to be fine. There were those people who maybe had jobs and they just went back to their jobs. There are others like you and me, we were also looking and we got jobs after that. In terms of now work, with this training that you've gotten from Cardiff and also the experience you've received in the UK, how can you maybe quantify the type of growth you have received and what you're now putting into this current role? Maybe if you can, yeah.
I mean, it's should I say it's so actually I was telling a friend of mine that a lot of the things we learned, or a lot of the things I learned at Cardiff,
Mhm.
really, um, COVID-19 actually has given me or gave me a fine opportunity to bring all that to bear in my
Ah.
current role.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I mean, not to brag, but COVID gave me a certain, so all the things I needed to do, because you see, communications is a lot more about strategy.
Yes.
People, I don't know whether it's people or the understanding around it hasn't really gotten down well, especially with leadership.
Mhm.
And so, before COVID, there were a lot of things I needed to do, but the process was quite slow and all that. Once COVID came, I just went back. I see when I said this is what I wanted to do, this is actually how it will pan out. So I mean, I
Yeah.
have the backing of my management team, and so a lot of the things I learned that I'm applying now. Well,
Mm.
thanks to COVID, but I will say that the Cardiff, I call it the Cardiff advantage.
Yeah.
Cardiff, a lot of the things we're doing were already digital.
Yeah.
And so really, when I was in Cardiff, one of the things that I used to complain to other Ghanaian colleagues was that, hey, if we come back to the country and probably want to do something with that is digitally driven,
Mhm.
one, the infrastructure probably is not there, people don't understand it and all that, so it's going to be a lot more challenging than we thought. But really, in my space or in my field, COVID has just given me the right spirit, and I'm just flowing like that.
Ah, nice.
It's been an experience. It's really been an experience, but it also tells you that nothing that you learn in the past obviously is will ever be useless. There'll always come an
Yeah.
opportunity where something that you learned,
Mhm.
you have to bring it to bear on what you're currently doing. And so
Yeah.
no experience is useless, no
Mhm.
exposure is useless, no you will always there'll always be a time where something that you even thought was not going to be beneficial, that is what you rely on, to move on to the next stage of. I'm really happy that the project I'm handling, if you know the workings of GIZ across the
Yeah.
world,
Mhm.
they have different projects and programs that they implement in different countries. So you can even have one country and they have lots of programs and projects that they're implementing.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, it's interesting. Where there's this event I went, thanks to Chevening, and you
Mhm.
know that they organize network events.
Mhm.
It was national development.
Yeah.
That was what the discussion on. And to be frank with you, after that event, I told myself, I come back to Ghana, I'm going to work the national development space. I
Yeah.
didn't know where exactly, whether I was going to be with GZ or UK but
Mm.
after that event, I made up my mind because the presentations and the discussions we had, it
Mm.
was so fast, it was so interesting,
Mhm.
and I realized that the deficit in that space was that a lot of international development agencies are doing a lot in
Yes.
their respective countries, but nobody knows about it and they're not able
Mhm.
to. So I was like, okay, this 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 conversation or this event has brought the reason why we need specialized people
Yeah.
in international development space. So I walked out from that room thinking, okay, I can still bring my expertise, knowledge, experience that I've gathered within the communication
Mhm.
space in the international development space. And so I walked out of that room saying, when I come back, I'm going to look for a role
This
in the
is my
international
in the
development. And really,
international
that's
space.
exactly,
Yeah,
that is
that's what we're
exactly,
doing now.
exactly, that's I'm in the international development space doing something I'm passionate about, which is communication, that, winning hearts and minds of
Sure.
people. And
Yeah.
the most important thing about it is that in that same event, I think there was a presentation on how you can leverage or countries can leverage the potential of their citizens in the diaspora
Mm.
for national development.
Yeah.
Okay, and hopefully the project I'm on
Yeah.
also leverages. The objective is to leverage the potential of diaspora, to national development. So I'm really in a cool space. It's
Yeah.
very challenging, very exciting,
Mhm.
very, very exciting. I'm,
That's
I'm just
wonderful.
happy and lucky that I get to be in a space that I love
Mhm.
with a skill set or something that I'm passionate about,
Mhm.
and also trying to help or contribute my little quota to how we can all convince or leverage the diverse potential of our diasporans, to
That's
to
wonderful.
drive national development, national. So it's been an exciting journey for
Yeah.
me.
And I
Since
really
my
like what you said. No experience, no exposure goes to waste. Everything,
Yeah.
everything will just come up to help you in one way or another. Hmm? So now, Mina, thank you so much for taking time. Is there maybe something that you would want to add on to this discussion as we wrap up? Anything you'd like to add or to
Uh,
continue encouraging the scholars?
so for me personally, I believe that education is a leveler. That's how I see it. That you can come from the poorest background, but once you get the opportunity to sit in the same classroom with different people from different cultures, you shouldn't be afraid. And really, for me, that's the subtle message that Chevening tells us, that look, you can be anywhere in the world, but still compete with any other person, know, anywhere else in the world. It builds your confidence. So I'll just encourage everybody that for those who are looking for scholarships, of course, there are other scholarships available, but
Yeah.
I automatically see myself as a Chevening ambassador. And so I encourage people to apply for that. Apply early. Don't be afraid. Don't think that you're too young or too old, to put in your application. Ask all the questions you have to ask if you have to. And then also do your research. I mean, for me, the best place to go if you are doing your research around Chevening is, of course, the website, but
Yeah.
also check all their other social media handles,
Mhm.
because I've realized that a lot more of the alumni engages with them more on their social media handles than on their website. So if you want
Yeah.
to get people's perspective or anything on the scholarship, it's better I'll encourage you to follow all their social media handles if you haven't done so yet. And luckily for people, yes, the opening or it opened in September. So at least you have now till September to
Yeah.
do all your research, ask all the questions, and put in an application. And I wish people all the best. If there are
Yes.
any Ghanaians watching or listening, they can reach out for some
Yes.
sorts of guidance, because really that's what a lot of us do,
True.
or at least my cohort, some of them or most of us try to guide people who approach us
Mm.
to help them with their application.
However they can.
They should go
Yeah.
for it. Go
Go
for
for
gold.
it. We're here supporting you and rooting for you. We know you can make it. So what I'm going to do, I'll just be able to link Mina's LinkedIn there, and you can just write her a message. If she can, she'll be able to reply and assist you in any way possible. That's why we do these chats with Kimola, to help you to find scholars who have gone through the journey, to just assist you and get and broaden your perspective and your worldview so that you can continue building up on your personal development through education, through scholarship. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, because we're going to do so many of these videos so that you can see that, listen, you're not alone. There are people who have gone before you and can assist you in any way. So thank you so much for watching.